Hello, my name is Ann Nolan, and I'll take some time to talk about the AAPC Code of Ethics. I want to read through this together, and then we'll dive a little deeper to explore what it means. It shall be the responsibility of every AAPC member, as a condition of continued membership, to conduct themselves in all professional activities in a manner consistent with all of the following ethical principles of professional conduct: integrity, respect, commitment, competence, fairness, and responsibility. Adherence to these ethical standards assists in assuring public confidence in the integrity and professionalism of AAPC members. Failure to conform professional conduct to these ethical standards, as determined by AAPC's Ethics Committee, may result in the loss of membership with AAPC. AAPC and its Ethics Committee does not function as a judiciary body. Any complaint to AAPC should have a foundation in law. For example, someone has been found guilty of fraud or has been placed on the Medicare exclusion list, or a foundation in AAPC administrative rules. For example, counterfeit CEUs, or a member using credentials falsely. So as a condition of our AAPC memberships, we are agreeing to uphold the AAPC Code of Ethics. By doing so, we all help to uphold the integrity of our organization. We spend a lot of time, effort, and money to obtain our certification, and we want that to stand for something. I can almost guarantee that you will have to refer to this Code of Ethics at some point in your career. There will be times when you will find yourself in a moral dilemma, and it can be difficult. But by sticking to the Code of Ethics, it's much easier to determine what is the right thing to do. I hope that you'll go through the AAPC website and read the full description of each of these 6 components. Let's go through some of the highlights together. Integrity is a key element of what every profession considers appropriate ethical behavior. Here are a few examples of integrity from the AAPC Code of Ethics. While on the clock at work, do you work diligently as your employer would expect, or do you take time out to conduct personal business? Employers expect employees to work the hours for which they're being compensated. Employees are not paid to socialize, surf the internet, pay bills, update their Facebook status, etc. Any employee with integrity will provide the level of effort that his or her employer is paying for and will self-regulate work behavior. Employees acting with integrity resist the temptation to engage in non-work-related activities. Do you cut corners and neglect workplace regulations? In healthcare, ignoring policies can lead to mistakes, non-compliance, and potentially life-threatening situations for patients. Taking shortcuts or seeking the easiest way to get through the day does not reflect a person with integrity. Do you treat coworkers with respect? A person with integrity looks beyond his or her own interest and pursues team-centered goals. This requires polite and professional communication, appropriate interaction, and respect for the thoughts and opinions of coworkers. When disagreements arise, on coding for example, do you objectively consider the position of your peers? Are you willing to be proved wrong? If the position of the other person is wrong, do you use the situation as an opportunity to educate or to ridicule? Is integrity like some diets where you get a cheat day? If you tell the truth most of the time, does that make you truly honest? The answer to both questions is no, because true integrity requires absolute adherence to an appropriate moral code, and honesty requires a person always be truthful. This is a difficult standard of conduct, however, it is easier to meet than you may think. When faced with the choice of acting with integrity, you are often required to choose the harder right rather than the easier wrong. Your fellow professionals, especially those serving on the Ethics Committee, as well as most employers, recognize that no one is perfect. In real terms, there's a recognition that absolute integrity is something we can only strive to achieve. When you recognize lapses in judgment, how you react will ultimately define your character. In such circumstances, a person with integrity corrects the situation, learns from it, and accepts any associated penalty. Doing so will gain the respect of your coworkers and employers. Respect. Respect is important to everyday life. We are taught respect from an early age. We are taught to respect our parents, teachers, siblings, and elders. We are taught to respect school rules, the feelings of others, family and cultural traditions, our country and its leaders, and the law. It is important for members to respect the rights of others to express their opinions, including opinions differing from our own. Self-respect is the foundation of a positive direction in life. Developing and maintaining a strong sense of self-respect can help fulfill your potential. Consistently conducting yourself in this manner will help you to develop healthy relationships, and it will let others see you as a person worthy of respect. Respecting yourself, appreciating your good qualities, and highlighting the positive in other people's lives will help you to earn the respect of others. Self-respect can be in part demonstrated by your appearance. If you seek respect, consider putting time and effort into your appearance. You should practice good grooming habits and dress neatly. Clothes do not need to be expensive, however, they should be in good condition and laundered. Practice good hygiene and take good care of your health. How you present yourself in oral and written communication is also important. Practice good grammar and use appropriate and professional language in your verbal and written communications. Respecting the rights and privacies of others, as well as the confidentiality requirements of your workplace, AAPC, or another organization, is an important reflection of your degree of professional conduct. Ethical professionals do not violate confidence or talk about others in a derogatory manner. Ethical people treat others with dignity. Finally, professional coders should demonstrate respect for the credentials that they hold and the organization to which they belong. Respecting your credentials requires continuous diligence in not only maintaining, but improving your level of professional competence. This requires meeting your continuing education requirements and challenging yourself to go beyond the minimum standards. Respect for our organization does not prohibit criticism or the free sharing of ideas, but it does require you to do so constructively. Take a look at the questions here to evaluate your own level of respectfulness. Do you treat people the way that you want to be treated? How do you react to others with different opinions? Do you treat people with dignity, courtesy, and civility? Do you strive to solve problems in a positive manner? And do you intentionally ridicule, embarrass, or hurt others? Commitment. According to the Urban Dictionary's top definition, commitment is what transforms the promise into reality. It is the words that speak boldly of our intentions and the actions which speak louder than words. It is making the time when there is none, coming through time after time after time, year after year after year. Commitment is the stuff character is made of, the power to change the face of things. It is the daily triumph of integrity over skepticism. Before you make a commitment, consider carefully the possible outcomes of your decision. A commitment obligates you to do something. Some commitments, like marriage, can be life-altering. When you take a job, you make a commitment to show up and do the job well, whether it's a paid position and your employer has committed to compensate you, or if it's a volunteer effort. Competence, as defined by Business Dictionary, is a cluster of related abilities, commitments, knowledge, and skills that enable a person or an organization to act effectively in a job or situation. In medical coding, competence requires more than memorizing codes or physician office habits. Rather, it requires coders to understand the premise of professional coding, to quantify on behalf of a provider the cognitive interaction between the provider and patient so as to describe sufficiently the encounter to the payer for reimbursement. Coding is the last link in the chain of the physician-patient interaction. It's the last step that tells the payer why the patient presented for care, what happened, and when. Such a step requires a high level of trust by the physician that the coder comprehends his or her note describing the patient's problems and treatment, and by the payer that the codes submitted for payment correlate with the provider's documentation and the patient's condition. Competency cannot be emphasized enough. AAPC's Ethics Committee occasionally encounters disputes involving competency. Such issues rarely involve actual knowledge and skill, but instead involve member conduct, where a coder knew or should have known that his or her actions deviated from the generally accepted standards and practices. Taking shortcuts, not engaging in due diligence, failing to adhere to the rules of the road, and engaging in inappropriate behavior can lead to review before the AAPC Ethics Committee panel. For example, coders should question circumstances where quantity of claims processed is more important than the ensuring that the codes on the claims are correct. Fairness. As a member of AAPC, you are ethically and professionally responsible for treating coworkers, employers, and colleagues fairly, as well as obligated to foster an environment of fairness, whether it be at work, a chapter meeting, or another professional event. The principle of fairness requires impartiality, honesty, and the disclosure of material conflicts of interest. A conflict of interest generally occurs when you are in a position to influence a decision on behalf of a particular party, when your decision, more likely than not, will affect another party to whom you have a corresponding and competing loyalty. Fairness generally involves a total disregard of personal feelings, prejudices, and desires to attain a proper balance of conflicting interests. Fairness is treating others in the same fashion that you want to be treated. Fairness is at the core of all professional engagements. It's very likely that the person seeking your professional services has substantially less knowledge and training in the area of coding than yourself. You bring your knowledge and training as a healthcare business professional to establish a relationship of trust to deliver services and advice to the client. You are responsible to ensure an environment of inclusiveness and a commitment to diversity in the organization you serve. And finally, responsibility. The word responsibility is used in many different ways. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines responsibility, or responsible, as liable to be called on to answer, liable to be called on to account as the primary cause, motive, or agent, being the cause or explanation, liable to legal review, or in case of fault, to penalties, able to answer for one's conduct and obligations, and trustworthy and able to choose for oneself between right and wrong. Being responsible means considering how your personal decisions and actions affect others, as well as you. All professionals share the obligation of being accountable for their choices and actions. Being responsible requires knowing your limitations. As healthcare business professionals, we are responsible primarily for our own work product and our own conduct. We are responsible for being competent and knowledgeable. We are responsible for giving our employers the benefit of our knowledge and advice, even though this information may not be followed. And ultimately, we are responsible to uphold the image of our profession. We meet this obligation by controlling our own conduct and reporting instances of misconduct by others. We are accountable in both circumstances by virtue of the AAPC Code of Ethics. Thank you, and see you next lesson.